Hello all, and welcome to our webinar, Doing Business in India. It's a pleasure to have you all here. My name is Sasan Shaba. I work as a director for international cooperation at Ignite Sweden. We are very proud to have all the partners gathered here with us today from both India and Sweden. And this is a step in taking the next step in our Sweden-India match day. And of course, all the other matchmakings that will happen in the future. This is a knowledge sharing seminar about the Indian business culture and the Indian innovation ecosystem and such as. And we have some exciting speakers with us that will talk about the different perspective of that. With that said, we have a full agenda for today. As you see here, we will have a lot of speakers from different partners, Vinnova, Business Sweden, SIBC, of course, CII, a Confederation of Indian Industry, NASSCOM, and Invest India. And I think that we can begin immediately and start just to give you a perspective of what is Ignite Sweden. So we are a non-profit organization and program that work with creating startup corporate collaboration. We do that every day. We have different matchmakings between startup and corporates because we see there's a big gap in accelerating innovation to the market, and corporates in this case are very important in that matter. And of course, for them to see the right innovations, the right technologies, future technologies that they are interested in. We are about 25 people all around Sweden working with this. We have five funding incubators and 2 science parks. And we are part of Swedish incubators and science parks, so we work very closely to our local incubators all over Sweden. As I said, we have done this for many years. We have been working in 10 countries, and this is basically the start of our first edition of Sweden-India Match Day. And we're very happy to do this with all of you. And we have been working with quite many startups, as you see here, over 700 startups and over 200 corporates and public organizations. And our main goal is to create commercial collaborations. And since 2017, we have done over 230 commercial collaborations. With this said, I would like to welcome our first speaker, Malin Petersen from Vinnova, the country manager for India. The scene is yours.
Thank you very much, Sasan. Let me share a presentation with you. Great. Thank you again, Sasan. And yes, that's right. My name is Malin Petersen. I'm country manager for India at Vinnova, Sweden's innovation agency. And I'm to give you a short introduction to Sweden-India Innovation Initiative. Sweden-India Innovation Initiative is a network of innovation actors like yourselves interested in Indo-Swedish cooperation. And the coordinating parties of this initiative is Business Sweden in India, as well as Office of Science and Innovation at the Embassy of Sweden in New Delhi, and Vinnova. And we aim to facilitate innovation, collaboration on innovation. And the reason for this is because shared challenges are best solved together. And a good first step for you is to join our LinkedIn group. You see the link here at the bottom of the page. In this group, you can get information about the upcoming activities, matchmakings like the one the event you're in now, for example, and upcoming funding opportunities. In this group, you may also find partners. You can post information about your organization or about activities you're planning. Second, I'd like to recommend you to listen into our webcasted information meeting about the collaboration, Indo-Swedish collaboration. The next one is already taking place on Thursday, 10 a.m. Swedish time or 1:30 Indian time. And on the agenda this time, we have guidance on intellectual property, among other things. So I hope you'll join us there. You see the link here at the bottom where you can register. And for your convenience, I will also post these links in the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Malin. It's a pleasure to have you on board on this. And of course, the Sweden-India match day is supported by Vinnova together with all of our partners. And it is a part of Sweden-India Innovation Initiative. With that said, I would like to present the next speakers from Business Sweden. And I would like to welcome Ms. Harika Garapati, project manager from Business Sweden, that will do the presentation with her. She have Mr. Rahul Misra, also from Business Sweden, and also Mr. Shubhang Vikas, also from Business Sweden. And they will be part of the questions, if there's any questions after the presentation that needs to be taken care of. Thank you so much. Ms. Harika, the scene is yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sasan, and good afternoon to everyone from India and good morning to everyone from Sweden. So what we wanted to do today in this quick 10-15 minutes is we wanted to give you a quick overview about Indian market and also talk to you about a few things that you need to keep in mind before entering into the Indian market. So just to give you a broad overview about India, you might have heard about India and from a lot of places, whether it is in terms of the GDP or population figures. But what you may not have heard is in terms of the digital penetration that India has. India now has over 500 million smartphone users using over 800 million smartphones day in, day out, which means the penetration of smartphones is directly proportional to the digital penetration in India. And it is also visible with the digital transactions that are happening within the Indian market. India is now one of the leading country in terms of the digital and financial transactions that are happening through e-commerce platforms. The other key things that you might be interesting for you is when you look at Indian market is divided obviously into 4 regions in north, east, west, south. And there are few important cities within each of these markets and each of these cities have different potentials and different attractiveness. So New Delhi is the capital city of the country, and all the political and all the political and even corporate activities happen there. The second one being Mumbai. It's a financial capital of India. A lot of banking and fintech areas happen within Mumbai region. Bangalore is where a lot of technology innovations and the startups reside. Chennai is kind of an automotive destination in the country. And finally, Kolkata, in terms of an Eastern India, it's a business hub across the eastern part of the Indian country. So if you look at India, you should divide it into multiple subgroups in order to actually capture the market. That's the thing that we want to highlight in this. If you look at any specific country, in terms of an attractiveness, the first thing that drives attractiveness is how much FDI is coming into the country. And if you look at India, India has driven almost $82 billion of FDI in 2020. And this is actually increasing in a range of 20 to 30% year on year. So it's making India one of the most attractive destinations across the globe. And this is actually being driven by a lot of consumer spend. The consumer spending power within Indian market is increasing day by day. And currently, India offers over a 6 trillion consumer market, both with respect to the population as well as with respect to the increasing spending power of the customers. Both of this has actually directly proportional to the infrastructure spend that has been happening. So there is a lot of investments that has been happening to upgrade the existing infrastructure and to promote more investments into India. And I have already talked about digitization. And one last thing to look at also is in terms of the talent pool that India has to offer. India has over 2 million talent graduates that are passing out of India every year, making it India not only an investment destination, but also a talent attraction destination. So that's the whole viewpoint. So India is one of the global leader in terms of attracting more investments, which is being driven by a lot of consumer market. We have friends from CII who will talk a bit more in terms of the startup environment. But what we thought is we'll quickly highlight to you in terms of India being more and more attractive towards investments in startups. In India, India is actually second most country which has attracted more number of unicorns in 2021. We have 28 unicorns that were created only in the year of 2021, making it 66 unicorns across till now. And a couple of startups have also gone into an IPO phase in this financial year. So this not only for an Indian startup point of view, but also from a global startup point of view, India is very much attracting startups, specifically in the areas of e-commerce, fintech, and enterprise tech. So that because of the digital penetration, as well as making the investments easy for startups, India is becoming more and more attractive to both the startups as well as with the established companies. In terms of the number of Swedish players that are present in the Indian market, there are over 200 Swedish players already present in India, and they have been operating for over a few decades now. And within these companies, obviously there are bigger companies like Volvo, AstraZeneca, and a few operating in India for a few decades now, but there are also multiple smaller companies who have entered and established their presence in Indian market like Doc Online, who have now strengthened their base within the Indian market. So this list is continuously getting upgraded, and more companies Swedish companies are entering into the Indian market. And in terms of typical investments in India, the Swedish companies usually operate on this crescent zone with few, and based on the type of company, as I was talking to you earlier in the initial slides, the investments of that particular, the companies are actually investing in those specific locations. Obviously, the last 2 years have been all about COVID. And you would have seen a lot in the news that India has taken a larger hit in terms of a second wave hitting the country. But having said that, India has now bounced back quite well. India is one of the fastest to grow down, slow down, as well as one of the fastest to grow back as well. And this has been primarily driven by two major initiatives. One is in terms of the vaccination drive. We have already vaccinated over 500 million people with at least a single dose, and over 150 million with both the doses, which is making so people are more and more aware about vaccination, and then people are taking vaccinations. So, and there's a lot of focus that is driven by the government also to ensure that the vaccination is full and complete. The second key thing that is actually driving the investments or driving this growth after COVID is a continuous flow of stimulus packages that are being initiated by the government across multiple sectors and across different scale of businesses, whether it is medium scale enterprises or whether it is small scale enterprises or whether it is large enterprises. This is to ensure that the companies that have already invested in the country will sustain in future as well, and through the initiatives that were being taken. And lastly, few companies have definitely gained more advantage in this zone as compared to others, similar to across the globe. This first, because of the digital penetration, e-commerce and enterprise tech have definitely grown multifold, and with a lot of spending towards the public cloud as well. And also in terms of the edtech market. So that's the broad overview about what happened after COVID. And soon India is already recovering. We are all back to offices. So, we have very few restrictions in terms of people moving in and out of the country. Lastly, in terms of doing business in India, you should not look at Indian market as one single market. Rather, it is complicated market in terms of, we'll call it one Australia, 3 Philippines, and 1 Africa. One Australia is where people with high spending power, specifically the higher segment of the population, which has larger spending power, can actually attracts a lot of investments, whether it is in terms of Volvo and these players. So there's a lot of high potential towards these players. With these players only account for 1 to 3%. And then the middle section, the middle income population within the Indian markets is actually equal to 3 times Philippines. This segment is actually growing. The spending power of this segment is growing drastically over the past few decades, and this will continue to grow. And this will be one of the most attractive segments for people targeting in this particular region, whether it is in terms of the consumer spending power. And last segment is the people with lower income population, which we call it as 1 Africa. They account for around 70 to 80% of the population. And again, even though the purchasing power is growing even within this population, the relative purchasing power is very high in terms of the middle income population. But all of these segments have different type of requirements and different types of commitment that is needed or the strategies that is needed by the Swedish companies also. So if you look at the top class population, it will be as similar a way of the strategies will be similar to the way you adopt in an Australian market or UK market. So the company's commitment towards grabbing the market share will be low, but the penetration strategy will be as usual. But if you look at the middle section of the population, you should have higher commitment towards the Indian market. You should invest more resources to penetrate into this market, and also understand the dynamics about each and every state and each and every section of population to actually penetrate into the market. And lastly, the lower section of the population, it's more in terms of how can you generate more goodwill among those companies, among this section of population to drive to actually penetrate into this market. In terms of doing a business in India, there are a couple of, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a section place. As I said, it's not a single market, it's a section of multiple markets. In order to succeed in India, specifically in the longer term, you need to definitely have a very focused strategy catering to these different sections of population. Also, having the strong relationships with the stakeholders, both at the central as well as at the local state government levels, will help in bridging that relationship between the public and private stakeholders as well, and also helps you in penetrating into the market. And India is definitely a long-term investment. Obviously, you get short-term returns also, but in order to gain the maximum advantage of Indian market, you should invest for the longer term. And lastly, obviously, the leadership team at a local level is also, you need to invest in the leadership team at the local level so that to capture and grow within the market. And these local leadership should work closely with both the public and private players in order to actually penetrate into the market. I would like to end with what Business Sweden, because many of you would know about Business Sweden already. Business Sweden is a trade and investment body of Sweden, where we work with startups and companies like you in terms of 4 key areas: market expansion, sales acceleration. We will also enable business to government support and also connect with the business incubation and operations area, whether it is in terms of having a working space allocated to you, or whether it's in terms of finance and controlling in those areas as well. So we do have specifically for smaller size startups and medium-sized enterprises, we have a lot of programs that are running within Business Sweden to enable your expansion into other markets easier and faster. So if you would like to get in touch with any of us, we'll be happy to assist you with respect to your next stage of growth. But I'll hold it for now. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to take those.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harika, for your presentations and about establishing in India. It's of course a big country, and there's a lot of things to think about and practical information. Thank you for the overview. Is there any questions? Of course, you can put them in the chat and we can take them immediately, of course. If not, of course, this is recorded. We will share it, of course, and of course, if there's any other questions that might come up later, we can take care of them also, of course. Thank you so much for the presentation, and we're happy to have you on board as a partner in this matchmaking day between Sweden and India, and for future collaborations, of course. With that said, I would like to welcome our next speaker, who will talk a little bit more about the introduction to the Indian culture and learnings from Swedish startups in India, because there's a lot of activities happening. It is Cecilia Oldne, Senior Vice President at Sweden India Business Council and head of the Sweden India Tech Community. With that said, Cecilia, the scene is yours.
Thank you, Sasan. Really excited to be part of this initiative and see so many now looking at India as a market. And well, why am I that? And that is not only because I represent Sweden India Business Council, which I'm going to tell you more about and what we do, but I live in India. I'm Swedish, but I moved to India in 2007 to spark the Indian wine industry. And I thought it could be interesting for the Swedish startups that are listening in to get some inspiration on what you can do if you succeed in India. So I will tell you more about what we do with Sweden India Business Council, Sweden India Tech Community, and how you can be a part of that, and the startup ecosystem that we have built. But a little bit of a background on how I ended up in India was that I was working with wines in Sweden, but I thought Sweden is just too small to develop wines in for 10 million minus people. So I looked at India with 1.3 billion at that time, and I saw a nascent industry. I saw an industry that was growing and also being the fastest growing at that time, but very, very small. And I moved to India. Some learnings there is that I did have to study the market quite a lot to understand that, at that time we were 29 states, now 28. They all have different rules and regulations. It was almost illegal to promote alcohol at that time. So you really have to first and foremost learn about the market and learn what you can and cannot do. And if you cannot do it, then find ways around it to do it anyhow. So be very creative when you come to India and find opportunities. So for example, if I put it that way, what we did with the wine company that I grew, and for your information, the name is Sula. At that time, we had a production of about 20,000 cases, and today we produce over 1 million cases. We grew to become the largest wine producer in India with 65% market share, and we export today to 30 countries. We in 2019, this wine company had 430,000 visitors, and that makes us the most visited winery in the world. So Yes, what did we do? Well, we created opportunities around that you cannot then talk about alcohol in India. We started experimental marketing activities. We started wine tourism, and we started music festivals to connect with the youth and with our target audience. And now the music festivals that we have in India are the most rated music festivals in the world. And as I said, we're the most visited winery in the world. So I think quite a few of you listening in would be feeling that, okay, India, it's can we do it? Is it possible? This, that, and the other. And my line of recommendation is anything is possible in India if you really put your mind into it. And though it's important that you work with the right people. So of course, listening to Sasan and Malin and Harika, there are so many networks and opportunities that you shouldn't miss out on. Of course, what we're doing today is one of them. But what I didn't only do was to study the market, but I ensured that I was connecting with people that had done similar journeys in different industries, like mentors. I joined various networks, and I was working very closely with, of course, different leaders in different industries to really understand the market faster than anyone else. So do take that line of recommendation. To tell you a little bit more about Sweden India Business Council that I then joined about 3 years ago, is that we're like a network as an advisor where we kind of connect people with each other. And Sweden India Business Council has about 130 members, where we help Swedish companies establish themselves in India, or companies that are already in India. We're also the secretary for India-Sweden Business Leaders Roundtable, which is a network of about 40 Swedish CEOs and 20 Indian. And we run in this CEO forum 4 different groups, which are digitization, skilling, smart cities, and defense. And on the Indian side, we have Baba Kalyani from Bharat Forge, who is our chairman. And on the Swedish side, we have Marcus Wallenberg. And to connect these companies, the Sweden India Business Council's members and the CEOs with a startup ecosystem, which hopefully are some of yourselves as well. We have, of course, Malin already a part of this ecosystem, and Sasan. We created something called Sweden India Tech Community, and that is a community that is an ecosystem of everything from the startups, the scale-ups, to the grown-ups, to academia, investors, media, influencers, incubators, and so on. And what we've done in this network is that we have a lot of delegations. So I invite all of you to be part of this delegation, to really come to India and see it with your own eyes, and with some really interesting and fun people. We usually go to Delhi, Bangalore, and Mumbai. We also do roundtables, where you could learn from each other. And I think it's really important when you go to a country like India to understand that a lot of people have already tried, failed, succeeded, and people have failed. There are things that you could learn from. So we do roundtables where you could, be a part and learn and ask questions from people that are already in India, and might have done a similar journey as you. So we do delegations, roundtables, we have events, we have after works on a regular basis. We do a few here at number 18, where I'm sitting today in Stockholm, but I will go back to India, where I live, in 1 month. So if you want to be part of anything in regards to this before I leave in a month, then you'll have to kind of hit me up before that, if you're in Stockholm. Or in Sweden. And we do also a lot of events. So we have something that you could be a part of to learn more about India, be a part of the startup ecosystem, and be a part of a lot of interesting discussion, one being the Sweden India Innovation Day on the 26th of October. And then we have the AI and Digitization Summit in Gothenburg on the 17th of November. And here, of course, we work very closely with also Vinnova and Malin, and we're going to have some very exciting roundtables and discussions around Pioneer the Possible. So I would totally, if you're looking at India, which obviously you are, I would not miss the opportunity to take part in these 2 events. Harika mentioned quite a few things in regards to, India and the challenges and the different states, etc. But one thing that I feel is really important is that when you work with India, you have to be a little bit more patient, I would say, than working with Sweden. And it's important that you follow up. So like, for example, just sending an email and thinking like in Sweden that people will reply just by that one email. It's important to follow up, and WhatsApp is very much the line of communication to really get through with what it is that you want to achieve in terms of reaching people. So try to get their phone number, and people are not like in Sweden. People are like, oh, can I send a WhatsApp to a person? It's too personal. In India, it's like you need to send that WhatsApp message to that person if you're really gonna get an answer as quick as you probably want to, being Swedish. So that's important. Relationships are extremely important. So when you have the opportunity to go to India, do go to India and meet the clients, meet the people, have chai with them, spend Diwali, play cards, do whatever it is that you potentially do in India to be part of their family. So like, for example, if you get invited to go for a dinner to a client's mother's house, that's totally normal. And I would totally do that if I want to, build on the relationship that you want to build on. I've been to many dinners and parties and played a lot of cards during Diwali to get to where I am today. And I've been 14 years in India. So what else are the challenges? I think, it's just that you need to be patient. As I mentioned, you really need to feel that it will take a little bit longer time. And as Harika said, that, you're in there for the long run. You need to think like, 10 years ahead potentially. But if you want to give it 2 years or 5 years, so there's something that you want to achieve, you can also go to particular states and works with these different states and the different thought leaders in the various states, because the different states to a certain extent have different rules and regulations and people in charge. What else can I say? Well, Sweden, India, if you want to be part of Sweden, India tech community, you can totally just connect with me and we'll see if that fits in, because it's something that I've created with about 130 plus individuals, and it's about 50% Indian and 50% Swedish, and it's very much the kind of red carpet to India, I would say, because we have a lot of everyone from like the government agencies to influencers to media, mentors and thought leaders. So that's definitely an opportunity if you want to join. We work a little bit different than others. We're more like an advisory kind of a network, and we connect people. And it's also, as we have so many in our network that has been in India and done business in India, there are so many learnings from them that you could take use of. And if you have any questions in regards to in particular, what not and how it worked with, of course, the wine industry is different from any of the industries that you are in, but I'm sure there could be some synergies in the way that we work to kind of create opportunity based on the challenges and the rules and regulations that there was. Take an opportunity to go to India. Maybe, if you can, it's a really nice festival called Diwali coming up. It's going to be now in the beginning of November. I'll be there. So if you're looking at going to Mumbai in the beginning of November, I'm going to be there. You can stay at Soho House, which I'm on the board of, which is a really nice membership club for the creative kind of tech entrepreneur community. And I think most of you are kind of fitting into that, the Swedish people listening in. And see you in Stockholm, or see you in Mumbai, or I'll see you at the Sweden India Innovation Day or the AI Day in Gothenburg. And I'll send some link here on the chat as well, that you could read up more about Sweden India Business Council and Sweden India Tech Community. Sula, if you want to read up more about that and see what we've done to get some inspiration. And looking forward to getting to know you more if India is the market that you now will be entering.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. Do you have any questions for Cecilia so far? I can say the best thing I know with India that I have been in touch with is the India movies and the music. and I can recognize many things from my own culture regarding India. And besides that, it's an impressive country, and the network there with the big corporates and also the startup ecosystem is very impressive. And of course, the community that you have created, Cecilia, is also it's a very active one, I would say. Really good job with that.
Thank you. Very happy to be part of it.
Thank you. Perfect. And with that said, it's also interesting to see, and of course, again, if you want to reach out to all the speakers here, let us know, and we'll take care of it, of course. And with that said, it's also interesting to get an overview of the Indian economy and then the startup ecosystem to understand how it looks like, what's happening over there. And we have with us two really interesting speakers on the next session from Confederation of Indian Industry. That's Ms. Vidisha Ganguly, who is a chief economist that will give us more of an overview of the Indian economy and industry. And Mr. Varun, the next speaker also after her, Varun Akhnur, who is director of the Center of Excellence for Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Startups, that will talk a little bit more about the startup ecosystem in India. With that said, I would welcome you, Ms. Vidisha, to the scene, and Mr. Varun.
Thank you very much, Sasan. I have a short presentation to make, which I will just share. Yeah, is it visible to everyone?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So actually, a lot of the things have already been seen in Harika's presentation, but still at the cost of repetition. Maybe some points that I wanted to make is, India is a, 1 second. Yeah, India is a large developing economy. You know, it is one of the biggest economies currently. If you look at the GDP in current trillion dollars, it is valued at $2.6 trillion. So the biggest is, of course, US and China, followed by Japan and Germany and the UK. And India is number 6 on that list, or number 5 on that list. And it is a growing economy, so it is expected to move up in size. In fact, the government has set a target of taking it to $5 trillion. Of course, there's been a bit of a setback for because of the pandemic, but it will soon move to that level. At the same time, one must remember that India is still a middle-income economy, a developing economy. So in terms of per capita income, we are much, much lower than some of the peer countries that are there in terms of total GDP. So just looking at the global economy currently and how different countries are faring, these are the forecasts made by the IMF for the next couple of years. The developed economies, the US, Euro area, Japan, etc., are expected to recover. So are the emerging and developing economies. But the gap is increasing. So while the developed economies are expected to accelerate faster, there is some sort of a slower growth in the developing economies. Of course, India is up there in terms of growth rate. It is expected to grow at 9.5% in 2021 and 8.5% in 2022, which is one of the higher growth levels. And in fact, the forecast for India has been revised down. And despite that, it remains one of the fastest growing economies. One of the big positive news coming out of India currently is that the vaccination process has been very, very successful. The COVID, we have had 2 waves of COVID. The first one in 2020 and the second one in April, May 2021, which you can see in the graph. It peaked around May, but then it has since then it has sharply fallen and plateaued out. It is still there, but around less than 25,000 cases per day, which for India's population is a fairly good number. So to counter this, India has stepped up its vaccination rate steadily over the months. You can see that May, June, July, August, and then finally September, the total vaccine doses administered have gone up to almost 250 million doses. The target is to vaccinate the entire adult population by the end of this year. While initially that seemed to be a very, very stiff target, now it seems like it could be reached. So as the COVID wave has come down, and we find that there is a quick recovery in the economy, we follow some of the very high frequency indicators to track the economy, things like the mobility indices and also the railway passenger movements. So it all bottomed out at the peak of the second wave, which was in May, June. And since then, there's been a very sharp recovery, which we expect should sustain, barring, of course, another wave of COVID. And the recovery is broad-based across sectors, including agriculture, industry, services. These are projected growth rates for the current year. And India follows financial years, right? 2021 was the previous year, which ended in March 2021. And the current year is 2021-22, which carries on till March of 2022. So in this current year, we expect overall GDP to grow at 9.5%. Of course, this is on a very low base because in the previous year, it contracted by 7.3%. And across sectors, there was a contraction, except for agriculture. Agriculture, was not affected by COVID. We did have 3.6% growth last year, and that growth is expected to be maintained this year. In all the other sectors, industry and services, there should be a reversal in the growth rate. Just as you've already seen the sectors, just wanted to point out the shares of the different sectors in the economy and how that has changed over the years. So in 1990-91, the share of agriculture was 32%. That has declined to about 16% today. And again, in the earlier period, industry was 27%. It has shrunk to 22%. Whereas services is the sector which has really grown from a 41% weightage to 62% share. And that is actually quite unusual for a developing economy, where usually it is the industrial sectors which grow first and then followed by services. However, India seems to have skipped that stage, and therefore India has a very vibrant services sector. Just coming to the next slide, what does services consist of? Industry, of course, is the usual. There's mining, there's manufacturing, which is the bulk, and there are the electricity and the utilities. In services, there is construction, which is a very much a growing sector. When you come to India, you will find a lot of construction sites everywhere, roads being built, and various other buildings, real estate being built. That's, of course, is 12% of the services sector. The biggest share in services is finance, real estate, and professional services. So this makes, this sort of utilizes the high skill levels of Indian professionals. And this is a fairly large part of services. Then there is public administration and defense, which is largely in the government arena. And then there is trade, transport, and communication, which is a fairly large sector. And this includes a large informal, what we call the informal sector, because this consists of a range of small mom and pop shops, the chai walas on the street vendors, a lot of these. And of course, there are the modern part of retail and communication as well. So India is really, I've just covered the economy. So it is the fastest growing economy, one of the fastest growing economies in the world. In nominal dollar terms, it is the 6th largest or the 5th largest. But if you look at it in PPP terms, which is purchasing power parity, which corrects for price differentials, India is the 3rd largest economy. Yeah, so clearly on the economy, there are many advantages. On demographics, India has the largest working age population. So it's a large, it's a very young population, and we don't yet have the problems of an aging population. And of course, it's the largest democracy in the world. And the market size is also large. The per capita income has doubled in the last 10 years. So this is really the attraction of India. It's a combination of economy size, demographics, and the size of the market. So, yeah, sorry. So I think Harika mentioned this, that India is rapidly increasing its telecom and internet penetration. The telecom subscribers have increased in the last decade by over 460 million people have had access to telecom. And more importantly, the broadband subscribers have really increased at a very rapid rate of 52% over the last 10 years. Currently, there are over 800 million subscribers, and this has given rise to a lot of business opportunities. The digital transactions have increased by both volume and value. In the right-hand graph, you can see that during the pandemic, the first wave of the pandemic, there was a sharp fall in the value of digital transactions, but that has been made up and it has moved up now. The same is the case with the volume of digital transactions, which have also grown at a CAGR of 51% over 2 years. India has also been getting a very strong FDI inflows over the last few years. These are UNCTAD figures which show that India is now ranked at number 5 in terms of the most attractive place to invest. And the share of global FDI has improved to 3.8% in 2020, which is the highest for in the last several years. What are the sectors in which FDI is coming in? Again, the top sector is services, which includes financial, banking, insurance, and things like outsourcing, R&D, testing and analysis. Then there is computer software and hardware, followed by telecom, and a host of other sectors such as automobile, chemicals, infrastructure. So it is very diversified, and there is strong interest in India, in investing in India. The government has also been playing a role by implementing a host of reforms, which includes taxation reforms. The corporate tax rate has been reduced quite sharply from 30% to 22% for existing companies. And for new companies, it is now 15%, making it very competitive. The goods and services tax has been introduced, which reduces leakages and creates a common market, bringing efficiency. Then there are regulatory environment has been improved for doing business. It has been simplified. And of course, there is the central government and the state government. So it is a continuous process, but the central government has started a process of ranking the state governments on the basis of its regulatory environment. So it is sort of work in progress, but it is improving. And so I just thought I'll end by highlighting some of the key sectors in manufacturing: the automotive, electronics, pharmaceutical, chemicals, capital goods, metals and mining, food processing, textile and apparel. And just a word on CII, which is the Confederation of Indian Industry. We have a membership of over 9,000 corporates who operate in India, not just Indian companies, but companies from anywhere in the world which are operating in India. So we cover all of these sectors. This is in manufacturing and in services. We have IT, ITS, tourism, health and wellness, e-commerce, infrastructure, renewable energy, artificial intelligence, financial services, education. Very important sectors that are now coming up are health and education, where in the pandemic period, it has been realized that a lot of work needs to be done. And CII is involved across these sectors. We are also facilitating investments. And of course, the startups, which is the a highlight currently, and which my fellow speaker from CII will talk about. I end here.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bidisha. Do we have any questions on this part before we go into part number two from CII? All right, Mr. Varun, thank you so much, Ms. Bidisha, for your presentation. And of course, if you want to reach out to certain speakers, just let us know, of course. Thank you so much, Ms. Bidisha.
Thank you. Thank you.
And welcome to the scene, Mr. Varun.
Hi, Sasan. Thank you very much. I'll share my screen now. Just allow me. Is this visible?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for the session, and good afternoon and good morning to all present here today. I hope you all are doing well and safe. Sasan, just wanted to check how much time do I have?
You have 10 minutes, but we have some more time. If it's needed, then you should take care of it, of course. If you need like 15 minutes, that's okay.
All right, thank you very much. Great. So I'm going to be talking about the overview of the Indian ecosystem and how we got here where we are today. Well, I represent the 10th Center of Excellence from CII, which is the Center of Excellence for Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Startups. We are working on two main pillars, which is the entrepreneurship and innovation. Primarily helping our members who, like Bidisha mentioned, we have about 9,000 corporates with us. We are working with our membership to see how we can integrate innovative solutions and leverage startups to help them upgrade and provide better services and increase their productivity. With that, just a quick, key trends. This is a quick glance of the Indian ecosystem. We are currently the third largest in the world in terms of startups. We have seen a lot of impetus over the last few years from the government in terms of policies and in terms of simplification of doing business in India. Interestingly, this phenomena is no longer just in the metros like Bangalore, Bombay or NCR, but now also at several upcoming hubs like Pune, Hyderabad, Indore, which have seen significant number of startup funding recently. Not just that, in fact, the academic institutions have become very active hubs for entrepreneurial activities, especially through incubators in India. Most significantly, over the last decade, I think the investor landscape also has become very strong, and a lot of diversification across stages. And this is also where I feel there are different types of HNIs and family offices can engage and start funding in startups in India. And not just that, in fact, there has been an intensified corporate participation, and there are several corporate programs that have come up in the last decade. So if we have startups in the audience who are looking to engage with corporates, I think CII is the right platform for you to segue into the corporates of 9,000 members that we have. Right. So moving on, most importantly, this pandemic, then the kind of digital transformation that we've seen across sectors, we've probably taken a leap of a few years in terms of digital transformation and digital penetration. And that has brought out a lot of challenges and opportunities for businesses and startups to engage and unlock a lot of value. Right. So I'm sure most of you have come across this news, and there's a lot of discussion nowadays on startups. They're always in the news. We have a few unicorns coming up every week in India, and for those who are new to the ecosystem, unicorns are the ones which are pretty much valued at over $1 billion. And now in India, we have 60 plus unicorns, out of which 20 or 30 or 20 plus have come up only in this year. And the expected number of unicorns by 2025 is to cross 150. So there is a huge opportunity for startups to enter into Indian market and tap into this potential, right? So we're already seeing a lot of activity, not just in terms of unicorns, but also in terms of the kind of diversity that we're seeing in startups. We're really starting to see deep tech startups where earlier, it was mostly on consumer tech, typically e-commerce for several years, but now there is a lot of diversity happening, and finally, we're emerging to see successful IPOs happening in startups, which have, the most recent was the Zomato, which being the recent case. And there are several others who are in the pipeline to go get into IPO, in the next couple of years. So it's really a great time to be a part of this ecosystem. And if you're looking to enter into India, now is the time. Please do. And with this, I would want to give you a sense of how we got here. So the startup ecosystem is not very old in India. Pre-2005, most people who were involved in this ecosystem have some sense that we had few things happening. So, happening here and there with a few push from the government, a little bit of push from the academia. We had some research parks, some innovation parks, but a lot of the key factors were really missing in terms of understanding what is the kind of risk appetite we need, or participation from different kinds of investors. And most importantly, something that the space really needed, which is the mindset of innovation, which includes expecting things like failure, as a part of succeeding. So understanding several aspects of this ecosystem took a little bit of time, but from 2006 to 2015 was a period of time when there was a significant amount of change. And several entrepreneurs who emerged, there were several policies, some policy pushes that happened for initiating these things, but we still are missing, we were still missing the key element, which is the intellectual property based innovations. And during this time, most of it was focused on either e-commerce or software. And the real push in terms of that has happened post 2015. Where we have actually seen not just the policies, but all the ecosystem actors really engaging in deep tech, in depth, And we are now beginning to see startups in areas which have very long gestation periods, things like defense or space tech. Most of the time where we don't know when the revenues will come, But now with the evolution of the startup ecosystem, we are beginning to also see startups on that side. So we are also moving towards now innovation-based entrepreneurship. As they say, it takes a village to raise a child. I think about startups in very much the same manner, right? There are a lot of different actors of the ecosystem, from the government to the corporations, to the investors, to the educators, to the support organizations like incubators and other cultural factors play an important role. Startup founders have now become icons, and all of this is actually, all of this actually impact what the ecosystem looks like. So today I'll just focus on a few of the three key actors that, a little bit on what they have done from the government actors, what they have done, beginning with the government, beginning with the government. The real base was actually set up with a lot of action plan, items from Startup India. Some of them are still in progress, but the three key pillars that they work on are simplification and handholding, industry academia, partnerships and incubation, funding support, and incentives. So under pillar one, the compliance regime based on self-certification. The objective of this is to reduce the regulatory burden on startups, thereby which is going to allow them to focus on their business and keep compliance cost at low. The second is the Startup India Hub. The objective was to create a single platform for engagement of various startup ecosystem stakeholders and enable knowledge exchange while promoting access to funding. So that is what the Startup India Hub is all about. And the outcome was we have, with more than over 4 lakh users on Startup India Hub online, an entrepreneur can connect to 663 incubators, 165 accelerators for scaling up their processes and businesses, and explore a pool of 81 investors to fund support, and to connect to 54 government entities for availing startup friendly benefits. There are 446 innovation hunts and funding assistance programs in collaboration with various government departments and corporates that have been hosted on this Startup India Hub. So it's definitely a place for you all to look up. The third is rolling off a mobile app and portal. The objective was to serve as a single platform for startups for interacting with the government and regulatory institutions for all business needs and information exchange among various stakeholders, right? So the outcome was really we had over 2 lakh queries that have been resolved since the rollout of the query resolution platform, 11,000 daily active users, a cumulative of more than 2.6 crore website views. The 2.85 entrepreneurs have gone through learning and development programs. There are over 4 lakh users who have registered on the portal and who have access to more than 11 challenges with the government agencies. Legal support is and fast tracking of patent examination at a lower cost. Again, the objective was to promote awareness and adoption of IPR by startups and facilitate them in protecting and commercializing their IPR, which is also very important for startups by providing high quality intellectual property services and resources. Their outcome was there are about 5,000 patent applications that have been filed. 1,000, about 459 have been granted. 12,000 trademark applications have been filed, 510 patents and design facilitators and 392 trademark facilitators are empaneled under this scheme. The other is the relaxed norm of public procurement. The objective is to look at government as a customer. So to provide an equal platform for startups vis-a-vis the experienced entrepreneurs and companies in public procurement. So now the beauty is startups can also take part in tenders. Earlier it was that the government had a certain set of guidelines for a company to take part in any of these tenders. But now that has been come down. So a total of 53,226 orders from public entities have been placed to our startups. The cumulative value is more than 2,279 crores of Indian rupees. So that's a huge benefit that startups are getting by having government as a customer. Faster exits, to make it easier to wind up operations. If startup is not working, you want to wind up your operations, there's not a lengthy process. We want to, you can shut it down quickly. Under pillar number 2, organizing startup fest and showcasing innovation. The objective is to galvanize the startup ecosystem and to provide national and international visibility to startup ecosystem in India. The launch of the AIM. The objective is to serve as a platform for promotion of world-class innovation hubs, grand challenges, startup businesses, and other self-employment activities, particularly in the technology-driven areas. Right, so there are about 14,916 schools across the country that have been selected for this tinkering labs. And
Mr. Varun, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
three minutes left. Sorry.
I'll wrap it up. So yeah, so these are the 3 pillars, which the government have mainly implemented and worked upon to take the Indian startup ecosystem to where it is today. This is the impact. We have 30 states and UTs who have dedicated startup policies. 44% of the recognized startups have at least one woman as their director. Like I mentioned, 53, there are 39 regulatory frameworks, 590 districts with at least one recognized startup. We are the world's 3rd largest, 53,000 recognized startups from DPIIT, 64 unicorns, 5,49,000 jobs created, $315 in $1 billion in value that has been created by startups. So yeah, so another thing is they've been useful. They've been encouraging a lot of competition within states. So they've created a framework for ranking different states across India, and it has been definitely encouraged the competition among different states, ensure that they actually develop their own startup ecosystem. And this is something that is really taking pace up and helping each state is now working towards attracting startups to themselves. So this is a good time to get into the Indian market. Support organizations. We have the incubators, investors, and industry. There is definitely a huge boost in the number of incubators that we have seen in the last 20 years in India. And not just the academy, but we have the research-based incubators as well that are coming up. What do incubators do? Pre-incubation, incubation, and acceleration. These are 3 kinds of support mechanisms that are in place by these incubators. And funding, when it comes to money, the investing ecosystem has really seen an explosion of investing in the last years. We've seen the number of unicorns grow. Just the VCs and angels are investing now to the tune of $10 billion in India annually. So yeah, that's a huge opportunity for startups to tap into. So yeah, this is the industry, how industry and startups are working together, mentoring, co-creating innovative solutions, access to tech support, and access to investment. So let me just close today's talk of the ecosystem by mentioning, a few elements on the wish list that I would want to see, which are on top of me, where I want India to see is, build in India for India and stay in India. That's what I want to see, where we, that's how we want to take this forward, and see a lot of domestic investment, into the Indian startups, because a lot of the funding that's happening is coming through foreign investors. So we want to see how we can, encourage Indian funding into Indian startups. So yeah, that's me. And if you want to reach out, that's my email ID. Thank you, Sasan and team, for having me. I hope I was able to cover all the points and give a good info on the Indian startup ecosystem.
Thank you so much, Mr. Varun. Happy to have you here and getting the insights from your side on the ecosystem, startup ecosystem in India. And of course, if there's any questions, of course, and also about the presentation, we can send it out to you all, so you have it with you also. I think we need to move forward. Thank you so much, Mr. Varun and Ms. Vidisha, for your presentation, and we're happy to have CII with us as partners for the Sweden-India Match Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Going to the next partner, we have with us Mr. Navratan Kataria, from NASSCOM that will do a short presentation about NASSCOM. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. So I'm a little tipsy, not because of Cecilia's wine, the Shula wine, but the amount of creativity and innovation she brings into the ecosystem is fabulous. And what I must say is that India, what she said is absolutely correct. India has immense opportunities. This is the land of opportunities, and she has proven that. She has gone against the wind and tried and shown that innovation doesn't see any boundaries. It doesn't see any problems holding you down. Thanks a lot, Cecilia, for that kind of introduction.
Thank you. Thank you. You, of course, are a part of Sweden India Tech community too, and it's so exciting to have you a part of it because you're such an inspiration.
So let me briefly introduce you what NASSCOM is. This is, I come from NASSCOM Center of Excellence of IoT and AI. Let me go down a little so that you can see the whole of this. And this is the building that we are based in. We have actually an IT lab, which has an IoT test and measurement equipment where startups can come, get incubated, use the test and measurement equipment to test their hardware and software. NASSCOM is an industry association of all IT and ITS companies in the country, representing 2,800 IT companies and over $170 billion worth of industry. This is one of the largest industry networks doing a lot of export. 6-7 years back, they got into innovation. I represent the innovation part in the deep tech part. We are located in 4 cities. And of course, Cecilia has already invited many of you to come during Diwali in Mumbai, but you have another place called Bangalore, which is, as you might have heard, the Silicon Valley of India. And why? Because we have provided soft landing opportunities to Swedish startups as well. You're welcome. This is the brief. We are blessed with the central government, the state government, and the industry partners that we bring through the NASSCOM route. And what we do is we've been in these 4 cities, sort of north, south, east, west of the country. And our biggest strength is to get deep tech innovation adopted, because generally these are B2B. They find it difficult to prove it to a VC or investor unless they have got some initial adoptions happening. So we try to connect them and get them adopted their solutions with either the government or the private industries or anybody in the social sector. We are like a facilitator, if you can say. We connect the startups to the industry, to the government and the academia and research, because all these are important equally to pass through the complete journey of an innovation and to grow and mature. The areas that we have worked in is almost in all deep tech areas, though the center is called IoT and AI, but that was the name given when we were born 5 years back, and that was the only deep tech technology that the industry had sort of remembered to give it a name. But we deal with blockchain, IoT, AI, ML, AR, VR, robotics. We've got almost 2,500 sort of deep tech startups connections. The 45 IPs that we have are the incubators that we have. Number of 200 prototypes shown and 120 use cases engaged with the startup by the industry, like the MedTech, the Industry 4.0, Energy, Smart Citizen, Agriculture, and things like that. This has been talked, so I will probably skip it, but this is the land of opportunity, because one of the things that the Indian government has been very successful in doing is to create a platform for any digital deep tech startup to flourish here. Apart from that infrastructure, you have 1.3 billion people who you cannot beat when it comes to the number of data that you can generate from India. Forget China. That's the only competition here, but we all know you can't go to China to collect your data for your AI engine to work beautifully. We have not only what has been given, but what is coming up. If you look at, there's a work in progress of 0.25 million gram panchayat, which is the village level guys who will be connected to internet and optical fibers. And one of the recent surveys said that 60% of small and medium businesses have said that it's very crucial not good to have. It's crucial for them to remain competitive through digital mode. Digital is soaked into everybody's thing. Today, if I have to buy a banana of 5 euro, I can pay through a digital mechanism without anybody making a cut or a commission in the whole transaction within a few seconds. Of course, we bench ourselves against. I will not claim that even though we are called the third largest ecosystem of startups in the world, rightly said in terms of unicorns, the numbers and things like that. But if you look at where we stand, we know where we stand, and we have a good number of opportunities available. And that's why I wanted to show you this slide. Of course, a very brief snapshot, you have gone through it, but this is something which Sasan can give it to you. I'll skip this. But one of the things that has been strengthening is a shift in the founder playbook. A lot of uncertainties and founders crossing the boundaries and collaborating with other founders of other countries is very much happening. Consistent corporate participation. This is very important because unless corporates take your solutions within their requirement for internal use or for their market use, this will not be an easy task. And this is where we are seeing that these are actually happening in spite of the COVID situation. And what I'm saying is that in spite of the COVID, things have gone very smooth. We have very large number of unicorns. Frankly speaking, I even don't understand why so many unicorns are coming up all of a sudden post-COVID. There must be something. But number of unicorns, of course, these numbers are old, but we are the third largest number of unicorns. Bangalore is the Silicon Valley, so you can see the largest number of startups. I am based in Bangalore, but we take care of the innovation and the co-creations of across all these 4 centers. And with that, I will close down this and just ask you, if you have a reason to look at India as a market, you could also look at collaboration with the startups. You could look at collaborating with complementary skills of startups. See, if you have come to India for market opportunities, you need a local partner who will not only do your sales or pre-sales, but he will also do the deployment and after sales. So you need a collaborative effort between some other startups with complementary skills, and you cross the boundaries. And as I said, you're most welcome to come to India and seek our advice. And Sasan is there sitting with close to you, who would be very much helpful to bring them to India. And of course, you're welcome to take the market pie from here in India and go abroad as well. A lot of startups, in fact, many of these startups that you have listed here have actually moved to other parts of the world from India. So with that, I'll probably end my session, and if there's any question, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Navratan. It's a pleasure to work with you too. And indeed, India is a land of opportunities with a lot of possibilities. And I think that in this type of webinar, we open up a lot of doors with your connections to different type of organizations that want to do activities in India. Thank you for taking part of this webinar and for the future collaborations indeed. With that said, I would like to welcome our last speaker, Ms. Himani Goel, that will talk a little bit from taking a perspective of Invest India and the opportunities in India regarding that perspective. The scene is yours.
Thanks, Sasan. So I'm just going to quickly give you a brief introduction about Invest India, and then I am going to take you in the next 10 minutes. I'm going to take you over the Make in India, the private equity investments in the country, and the India-Sweden relationship. I will try to keep my presentation short because I understand that, there, in the interest of time, I'm going to keep it short. And I think there are a lot of points which have already been covered by my colleagues here. So just to give you a background about Invest India.
Sorry to interrupt, Himani. I don't think that your presentation is shown.
Okay.
I can't see it. Otherwise, we have a backup. We can present it for you if it doesn't work.
Let me just try once again.
Yes.
Can you see it now?
No, we can't see it. So let's just activate our backup plan and we can show your presentation.
So
Malin, you can just tell us. You can just tell us
give me a
when
moment.
you want to change slide.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay. Thanks, Sasan. So just to give you a background about Invest India is the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency of Government of India. So back in 2009, we started as a query cell, but in 2015, when our Honorable Prime Minister released the flagship program of Make in India, that is when Invest India took its shape and became the Investment Promotion Agency of Government of India. We have a very interesting structure. So 51% is held by CII, NASSCOM, and FICCI, and 49% is held by a mix of central and state government. Central government holding about 37% and 25 states holding the rest of the 13%. While we are privately held, our entire funding comes from the government. So we are a full-fledged entity under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. When we say that, our entire funding comes from the government, all the services that we offer are absolutely on pro bono basis. Internally, how we are structured is we work on a country, sector, and state matrix, where there is a dedicated 3 to 4 member team looking after a specific country, sector, or a state. So today I am representing the Sweden desk at Invest India. I look after the Nordics region at Invest India. I also look after the Financial Investors Initiative, which is basically promoting institutional investment in the country, as well as the maritime sector. I also look after the Maharashtra as a state. So when an investor comes into, so for example, if I have to take an example of a Swedish company itself, if a Swedish company is coming into India, I am going to help the Invest India, the team members from different teams are going to help the company in the entire investment transaction, in the entire investment journey in India, from the first point of market entry to the last point of grounding the investments, and also offer aftercare services. Which is basically, if the company is looking for expansion or facing any kind of issues, we basically act as a bridge between the investor and the government. Sasan, can we move to the next slide? Okay, just to give you a perspective of how India has changed over a period of time. This is how our Mumbai airport used to look in 2013. And now in 2018, it has actually become one of the world-class airport. Similarly, a highway in UP used to look like this in 2014. And now if you actually take a look, it looks like in 2018, it looks like this. Sasan, next slide, please. Okay, so this is an interesting, interesting metrics, which has already been covered by my colleagues. So if you actually see, it took us 63 years to add 1 trillion to our GDP, another 7 years to add another trillion, and just 3 years to add 1 trillion. Similarly, for FDI, if you see 14 years to make it to 300 billion, then another 4 years to add 200 billion, and another 2 years to another 3 years to add about 300 billion. In the last year, we actually received about 82 billion as investment. Sasan, next slide, please. Okay, so in the last year, when the entire world was dealing with COVID, on the side of the business, global FDI fell by 42%, while FDI in India rose by 13%. This is, of course, owing to the various initiatives which have been taken by the government for improving the ease of doing business, to bring in more investments in the country. Next slide, please, Sasan. Okay, so this is basically the Make in India sectors. This is the 5 trillion opportunity by 2020. 24 strategic sectors which have been identified with an investment outlay of all of them, with a budget for all of them, where each of the line ministries and the departments are working in bringing the investments and achieving the target which has been set by 2025. So for example, roads in the case of the infrastructure sectors, privatization is happening, monetization is happening to bring in more investments. The project linked incentive schemes are coming out so that, to boost investments in the manufacturing sectors. Sasan, next slide, please. Owing to the point I just made to the 24 Make in India sectors, these are some of the segments across which India has proved to be a top market. So as you can see, we have the 5th largest installed capacity of renewable energy. We are also the 2nd largest steel producer with about 140 metric tons capacity. We are the 3rd largest domestic aviation market. We are the fastest growing e-commerce market at 63% of growth at 85 billion by 2023 is expected. And we're also the 6th largest food and grocery market in the world. Next slide, Sasan. Okay, so these are some of the reforms that have been taken by the government. So you can see the corporate tax rate has been slashed to 17.16%. Last week, we released the single window clearance portal, which is, we have launched the single window clearance portal, which is basically going to be a one-stop shop for all the investment clearances that are happening in India. So any investor who is coming into India can easily log on to that portal, see the status of the investment which is happening in India. Happy to take this conversation separately. Also, Invest India has been very closely working on the single window clearance portal. So of course, we can walk you through the entire portal. Then, as you can see, India has jumped 79 places and came at 63rd ranking in 2019, which is of course, again, due to the government incentives which have been taken, incentives and initiatives which have been taken by the government. Till 2016, there were many sectors which were under the government route for receiving foreign investment in the country. After that, the sectors have opened up on the automatic route. There is no government approval required for bringing in investments in many, many sectors. More than 95% of the sectors are all on the automatic route. Next slide, please, Sasan.
Sima, sorry, we have 2 minutes left.
Sure. I'll just quickly go through. This is actually another slide which showcases how India pulled in when when COVID happened. We actually started manufacturing all the critical equipments which were required. We became the 2nd largest PPE manufacturer in the world. We have also dispatched about 11,300 Make in India ventilators and so on. Next slide, Sasan. These are actually the production linked incentives schemes which have been launched by the government, and I think this is one of the most important point for the Swedish companies coming into India. We have released the PLI scheme for 13 sectors. The benefits that are going to entail from this is, making India as a part of the global supply chain, attracting investments, enhancing capacity, driving innovations, etc. Next slide, Sasan. This is again an infrastructure development slide where you can see the infrastructure vision which has been laid down by our government. The National Infrastructure Pipeline has been launched last year. 1.4 trillion investment is to be made between 2019 and 2025. Assets have been identified, out of which 21% would be the share of private investments in the National Infrastructure Pipeline. Next slide, Sasan. This was actually recently launched in August. This National Monetization Pipeline is basically talks about public assets worth $81 billion, which are to be monetized by 2025. These are all brownfield assets. All the 20 asset classes have been identified across 12 sectors, and 15% of the assets are to be monetized in financial year 2022. There's going to be a concession agreement between the two parties. roads, railways, power basically handles, gets the largest share, followed by other sectors as well.
Simani, we some finalizing presentation would be great.
Okay, I think then maybe we can just skip to the next slide. Okay, next slide, Sasan. Yeah, so how we've been working with the Swedish companies. This is 1.82 billion FDI has been received between April 2000 and March 21. These are some of the strategic sectors. There are about more than 55 Swedish companies in India across 75 R&D manufacturing sites in 11 states. These are some of the companies we're actively working with all of them for bringing in investments in the country. Sasan, next slide, please. These are some of the key bilateral initiatives which are happening between the two countries. This is the Indo-Swedish Joint Commission, is basically the G2G dialogue between the two countries. With the SCCI, the Swedish Chamber, we have been doing monthly criticality calls. We started in the last year in 2020, where we basically had a weekly call with all of them, where the entire country was shut down. We were helping the existing Swedish companies in India, opening their manufacturing facilities and any issues they have been facing. We are still continuing these calls. We do it on a monthly basis now, just to listen to the members of SCCI and help them in any way that we can. Next slide, Sasan. This is basically Invest India's background. The awards that we have won, we have received the UNCTAD award for the best investment promotion agency. That's about it from my side. I would have loved to speak a little more on other slides as well. Considering in the interest of the time, I'm just going to keep it short and happy to have individual conversations. Thanks, Sasan.
Thank you so much for your presentation and the work that you're doing. We have some conversations together on the future collaborations, of course. We are happy to have you all on board here. As we said, this is an inspiration, getting the right network, the right collaboration, and the right network in India. There's a lot of possibilities and opportunities in India, and of course, we want to support as much as possible. And thank you so much, all of the partners that have been presenting here. It's a pleasure to have you on board. With this said, we have this Sweden-India Startup Match Day next week. We'll have 5 promising giants from India, 5 corporates that will participate. And we have about 20 to 25 startups, Swedish startups, that will participate in that matchmaking day. We're very happy to do this. This is the first time we're doing it, but definitely not the last one. For you startups that have a confirmation from a corporate, you will see it in our platform, Ignite Magic. For you who don't have any confirmation from the corporates, you will be able also to join our other matchmaking days, as you see here. And maybe I can highlight one of the biggest ones, Sweden Innovation Days, that will happen in January 2022. It's a huge collaboration around global goals. 10 countries with both Sweden Innovation Days, both is a conference, but also a big matchmaking days where we expect to have 90 corporates and 180 startups from these 10 countries. We're very happy to have this first Sweden-India Match Day together with all of you partners. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and we are now in the last stages of getting to that match day. With that said, thank you all of you for participating. And of course, if you have any questions, come back to us and we will take care of it. We will also send the PowerPoints that have been shared here for if you want to understand and know more, or if you want to get in touch with the right people. With that said, thank you so much for all of you that have been participating in this webinar. Have a great day.